Holy cow. 1985. How are you? They love you. Look at this. And I love them. Each and every one of you. That's nice. Look at that. What is it like for you 40 years later to watch this in a theater again, like this? It's kind of extraordinary. What I've learned over these 40 years is that while this character that I portray, Loudon Swain, he appears to be the movie, you know, but like this piece of fabric. Loudon Swain is kind of the poster, you know, the centerpiece for the film, but if you took this piece of fabric apart, you'd see that it's actually made up of a lot of threads. And what I've learned over the years is that each of those people's names, each of those musicians, each of the technicians that worked to make this movie possible and to make it as good as it is, that we're still watching it 40 years later, that each of those threads is really important, that they're the strength of the fabric, and it only takes one or two threads to make the fabric imperfect and something that we don't regard after 40 years. So I'm really happy to be a thread in that fabric that is Vision Quest.
I am curious, of the people here, who tonight saw this movie for the first time? Oh, geez, okay, wow, all right. It's amazing. I'm envious. Just your first time, you got to see in 35 millimeter. I've never seen this movie in a movie theater before. This is great.
It is incredible, and I have my producing partner Adam Rakoff to thank for contacting Yes Action. He got in touch with the folks at Warner Brothers, and this is a very special print because they keep it locked in a vault, and this may be one of the first or second time that it's ever been projected on a motion picture screen.
So here's an interesting tidbit. Well, I think it's interesting, but that great finale, Loudon Beach shoot, we almost didn't get to see that ending.
Why?
Because the book doesn't end that way.
Right. Yes. No. The book, Loudon's Vision Quest was to reach 168. And when he goes through the door after doing the jump rope and stuff, the book ends. He accomplished the goal, but that would be very unsatisfying for a movie audience. Well, one of the things that did happen was, probably only the ladies would notice this, but the guys probably didn't, but in the weigh-in scene, when I pulled my panties, my underpants off, you may have noticed that I had a wig on. Did anybody notice I had a wig? Oh, that's good. The wig.
I did this time because you did. You told me.
Yeah. So what happened was I did Vision Quest, and then I went to Toronto and did a movie with Diane Keaton and Mel Gibson called Mrs. Sofo, and then with Alan Parker and Nicolas Cage, and a movie called Birdie, and then went to London to do Full Metal Jacket with Stanley Kubrick. It was quite a run of movies, and when I finished Birdie, has anybody ever seen Birdie? It's quite a movie. And so in Birdie, I lost about 25 pounds from all this muscle that the whole time I was making Vision Quest, I was trying to put muscle on, because I was still studying acting at Stella Adler's Conservatory of Acting. And when you go to drama school, you start smoking and drinking gallons of coffee because, you know, that's what actors do. You know? And so when Harold Becker met me for Vision Quest, he said, I think you're a good actor, but I don't think you could do 10 push-ups. I said, oh, come on, man, I can do 11. And so they sent me to Spokane, Washington before we began filming to try to, Spokane, Washington. Monroe Bridge. He's got it on his T-shirt. I just walked across it last week.
Wow.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. If you've never been to Spokane, Washington, don't tell anybody, but go visit. But don't tell anybody because you don't want to fill it up with a bunch of, New Yorkers. Isn't that right? Yeah, keep it secret. Anyhow, so I went to Spokane to wrestle, and all those kids that you see in the movie in the wrestling scenes were all state champions. They were all fantastic wrestlers. But the whole time I was making the movie, I was trying to gain weight because I was so skinny. And Brian Shute, what's his name, Adam?
Frank
Jasper. Thank you. Frank Jasper, he's a beast. He's a huge man. So anyhow, so I try to gain the weight. We finish the movie. I go off. I make Birdie. I lose 25 pounds. I'm so skinny. And some point when they were editing the movie, they went, "Oh my God, this movie's about a guy losing 160, losing weight to wrestle 168, and there's no weigh-in scene." So I finished Birdie, I came back, and I was skinny again, and had to do this weigh-in scene, and I'm really skinny in that scene. What am I talking about? But my head
Come back for a reshoot.
My head was shaved because in the Birdie scenes, Birdie's in a mental hospital and his head shaved, so they had to put a wig on me and do the weigh-in scene. Jesus, that was such a complicated story.
Well, another thing is with that scene, originally Carla was just gone. She's not supposed to come back, and I think you said they wanted to kind of rocky it up a bit with having her come back and give a pep talk.
Yeah, because you've got Talia Shire in the great Rocky movie saying, kick his. What does she say in Rocky? Win. Yeah, she's in bed, right? Win. And so they needed Carla to come back and say, kick his ass. It's very gratifying as an audience member to have the character come back and say something like that. So they needed. And so that was a reshoot. They turned Frank Jasper into a bad guy because in the book, Frank Jasper was just kind of a guy like Loudon who just wanted to be the best wrestler in his weight division. But you couldn't have that. You had to turn him into a monster. So this other scene that was added was after the wrestling match where I got the first bloody nose, they had him come in and say, "You can't hold your mud. You're a bleeder." Because they wanted to turn him into a monster. But he's just a kid like Loudon. He just wants to do the best. The other thing that was cut out of the movie that I didn't think was fair was when I go to see Lemon Pie Kevin.
Oh, I have a whole thing about that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Should I let you go?
Well, what I want to bring up first, because you mentioned the push-ups, and it leads into that in that scene in the hallway where you do the push-ups, that's not in the script.
No, I'd done a movie before this movie with the great David Alan Grier. Does anybody know David Alan Grier? He's living color. He's the godfather of my children. But David and I became really good friends when we were making Streamers that was directed by Robert Altman. It's a movie about soldiers going off to Vietnam before America knew what Vietnam was. And there's a gay character in David Rave's play. And David Alan Grier tells the character, because he doesn't know how to stop being gay, David tells him to do some push-ups. That'll straighten you out, man. And so after Lemon Pie Kevin grabs my junk when we're doing Tai Chi, as an homage to my friend David Alan Grier, when I ran out of the room, Harold Becker said, "Do something, you got to do something." And the only thing I could think was what David Alan Grier told me to do, was to do some push-ups. It straightened me out.
And since we spoke last, I watched Streamers.
Oh, you did?
It's intense.
It's an intense movie, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah, Mike Nichols directed it when it was on Broadway, and people passed out in the audience, because there's a lot of blood. And the way that they did it so realistically when they did the play, the production, people got sick and passed out, and it was a very controversial production that was done on Broadway with Mike Nichols directing it. Yeah.
So most Vision Quest fans ask themselves this at some point, because Loudon's in there with Kevin, the Tai Chi guy, and he leaves. But then a few scenes later, a different night, Loudon is leaving with the wrestling shoes that Kevin offers him. And there's always been a debate. How did Loudon get those wrestling shoes? And what has happened in between there? And tonight you're going to get your answer.
Loudon's not stupid. He's a working class kid who needed a pair of shoes. Now, what happened was Loudon goes back up to the room to deliver lemon pie and coffee, because that's what lemon pie Kevin liked, was lemon pie and coffee. By the way, I was so hungry when we were shooting those scenes. He would take one bite of the lemon pie and we'd shoot the scene. Now, take two, you have to bring in a new piece of lemon pie. So that lemon pie would go into a room. I was eating all the lemon pie. I was so hungry because of all the wrestling and running and stuff. But so they had a follow-up scene. I go in to deliver the lemon pie, and I don't want to go in the room because of what happened last time. And I just say, no, here, just take it. And he goes, listen, I have something for you. I said, oh, what? And he says, I've got some shoes for you. I said, no, I can't accept them. He goes, no, I heard about what you're doing, that you're wrestling this guy, and I want to apologize for what happened last time, and I want to give you these shoes. And Loudon still, I can't accept them. And he says, listen, if I was going to pay for sex, it'd be for something a lot more sophisticated than you. Take the fucking shoes. And that's how Loudon got the shoes. But the thing that's great about that, what Terry Davis was doing with his book was creating a book that was really a coming-of-age story. It's so, and I think there are young people that watch the film today that don't even understand why they like it. But it takes place before video games. It takes place before social media. It takes place before computers. That if people wanted to be together, they had to be together. And I think it's the same thing with Stranger Things, that the young audiences that watch Stranger Things, they don't know why it is that they like it, but the kids are together. They're communicating with one another. And these stories in the 80s took place in a time, in a moment, when coming of age was still allowed. That if Loudon says and does many inappropriate things in the story. If he did that to Carla in a movie today, there's no question that he'd be canceled for his behavior. But Carla teaches him a lesson. She says, you're just lucky because you're young and you're stupid, and I'll allow you to get away with something like that. So it becomes a learning moment. And it's, before a child walks, it has to crawl. And it probably falls down 3,000 times before it learns to walk. And then before it learns to run, it has to go through these steps. And I think that's kind of unconsciously, subconsciously why we love some of these movies from the 80s and before, because people are communicating with one another.
You did say it was before video games. I want to, for the record, I did own an Atari 2600. So haha. But you were saying earlier that's the scene. The second scene with Kevin is the one you were upset it was cut though, because he didn't get his full arc.
He didn't know. It was important. But all of those coming of age things were very important when I read the script, and I thought that it was fair. It was fair and it was kind, and it it's one of those steps that a child takes in learning to walk. That Loudon was learning. He was really coming of age and learning that the gay man that orders lemon pie and coffee is not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. He did something that was inappropriate, just like Loudon does something inappropriate, and he's forgiven. Forgiveness might be the most important thing that humanity has the ability to what is the word I want? Forgiveness is a beautiful, powerful thing. And I'm not religious, but if Jesus Christ were responsible for one thing, those among you that are without sin cast the first stone. If that was the only thing that he did, he deserves to divide time.
Now, eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed Yeah, the singer at the bar. That was Madonna.
You know, some of them may have thought it was Boy George.
So and I don't even talk about this at length, but at the time, she had like the hit like Holiday, and I think Borderline was starting to climb the charts. She wasn't at like a Virgin super, like when she was on set, you were just like, oh, here's the new singer. She wasn't Madonna yet.
Yeah, I think in those days, if you were a Warner Brothers recording artist, they would, if there was a Warner Brothers movie coming out, they would try to find a way to get their artist in the film to sing. And so that whole scene was kind of created for Madonna to appear in the movie and to get a couple songs in, because there was people at Warner Brothers thought that she showed some promise.
Internationally, they changed the title of the film to Crazy for You.
Yeah, around the world, the movie stopped being called Vision Quest and they changed it to Crazy for You. I was in Italy. I had a break in filming on Full Metal Jacket and went to meet the two filmmakers named the Taviani brothers. And we were near the Piazza di Spagna, the Spanish Steps, and I saw this poster and it was Madonna. And it said Pazzo per te, which means crazy for you. And I thought, she must be singing here. And I got closer, and there I was on the bottom of the poster. And all of a sudden, I was in a Madonna movie.
Now, is there anyone from the cast that you still keep in touch with?
Every once in a while, I run into Forrest Whitaker, yeah, he's wonderful, and really kind and. He started, I think it's called the Forrest Whitaker Foundation. I mean, it's such a coincidence that the foundation would be named for the same name as Forrest Whitaker. That's not very funny. But Forrest, he grew up in East LA, and he grew up with all the gang violence and death that was a result of young people fighting with one another. And so he started this foundation to find ways to bring the heads of those gangs together, to sit down, look at one another, touch one another, and say, I don't hate you, I don't want to kill you, I don't want to die. And a couple of years ago, Oprah Winfrey gave his foundation $1 million, and he does this around the globe, because young boys do stupid things like get in gangs and want to kill one another. So Forrest Whitaker has this incredible organization that goes around and brings these kids together, and he's got like a 99% success rate with his foundation. So yeah, Forrest Whitaker.
It is great to hear that really lovely story, and then you think of him in the movie where he's just yelling the P word at climbing the peg hole.
Yeah, and there is another fella here that was in the movie. He played Schmoozler. His name's Raphael Sparge.
Come on up. He's here, right? Oh, there we go. There he is.
Matthew, thank you for inviting me. Matthew found out that I was going to come, and he said, "Why don't you come up here?" Very sweet, very sweet.
So we did an elaborate ruse. That was all planned. Sorry to peek behind the curtain, but
yeah, no, right. I haven't seen this film since it came out. You're incredible, man. You're really incredible. We went through this training. The coach who weighed him in at the end is a guy named Cash, who was the actual coach in Spokane, and he's infamous there, and he put us through this. They killed us with the training. It was really.
Was it 2 months of training?
It was a month, but it was like 3 times a day. I mean, it was brutal, and we